Australia celebrates 30 years of democracy this year. With it being Freedom Month, we celebrate all our achievements that we have made over the past 3 decades in our democratic journey, including our heroes on the sporting field. And one such hero joins me today, Gora Ebrahim, educator, former Dynamos and football legend, also life coach, motivational speaker, and now author of his new book, No Regrets. Good afternoon, Gora, and welcome to Game On, Keeping It Real.
Thank you, Bhavna. It's fantastic to be here, and I'm very thrilled to be in your company. I must say, I'm not sure if you were speaking about me in your introduction. You really raised me. Thank you very much.
Gora, you are now in Durban. You're going down memory lane in your football journey. When did it all begin?
It goes back a long way. To when I started playing football on the dusty streets of Vereeniging, which is 70 k's out of Johannesburg. So I come from a mixed marriage family. My father was a founder member of the then very legendary Vereeniging All Boys team. Used to regale us with his stories around the supper table and speak to us about the great footballers of the time. And of course then used to speak of Curry's Fountain, used to speak of all Natalspruit and all these great grounds. And I used to dream of being part of my dad's story. And he had all these great players that he used to speak about: Durham Mahon, Lynx Periachi, Nadir Shah. These were the ones that I never got to see, but my dad was in awe of all of these players. And my dream was just to be in his story. Like the way he speaks about all of these players, I was just hoping that maybe one day he speaks about me like that too. So that was the nudge. And of course, as we grow up, there wasn't much more to do than playing football. There was cricket and football. I was very good at academics. I was a fairly good student, studious, achieved well. But football was the glory. And of course, in a little town, we all wanted glory. And I was lucky that football came easily to me. And I think I achieved some level of recognition amongst my peers at the time. So that's where it all started.
Very, very interesting. Now, speaking of glory, what would you say in your glorious footballing career is your best footballing achievement?
But the dream was always to play in front of big crowds, large crowds. I was fortunate to play for clubs like Bluebells, Vereeniging All Boys when I was only 15. I get to think about the first football lesson that I received from Calvin Peterson and Keith America when I was only 15 at the Northdale Stadium. I will always take that as my first lesson in football. There was no glory then. I then went to Bluebells and I started getting the feel of playing in front of big crowds. And when I got to Dynamos, the first time I played against Kaizer Chiefs, when we played at the Land Stadium, wow, that was just crazy. There was people everywhere, people sitting on the roofs of buildings, and around the stadium there were these flats, and people having taken up every position that they could, trying to watch the game. But nothing beats the glory of putting on the black and white shirt of Orlando Pirates.
Definitely a proud Buccaneer moment. Now, Gora, in celebration of 30 years of democracy in South Africa, sport has brought upon change, passion and togetherness. How vital has this been over the years?
I think during our time, we played on the segregated fields of the time. We weren't allowed to play with each other. Football had a different dimension, and it was not as segregated as, say, cricket and rugby. We were able to go into the townships and play football there. We were also able to play as an Indian in the colour townships and then go into the black townships, not quite the white town, the white suburbs at the time. And at that time, there was a limitation to what we could do. We could be heroes in our own little communities, but heroes of the country, that wasn't possible. Playing for South Africa, a united South Africa, that wasn't possible. So the great players like Durham Mahon and Links Periachi, Frank Prince and Rashid Khan and all of those guys that played at the time, the recognition was limited to the communities that we came from. Come 1994, and then we go into a democracy, and all of a sudden all of us are one, and now we're able to represent the country. Sadly, those players, those are the ones that could have played anywhere in the world, would never have gotten that opportunity. Their time was over. Democracy came a little too late for them. I was fortunate that when I played football, I was towards the end of my career, I was able to experience a togetherness. But like I say, bittersweet, those that came before us, those that really deserve it, were never going to get those opportunities.
Now, speaking of opportunities, Gora, your football journey has been amazing. You've crossed it with your love for literature, your community, your people, and now brings us to your new achievement, your book. You're an author of the book called No Regrets. Tell us more about this book.
I'd be lying if I say that there is no regrets that we ever have in life. There's always some regret that we will carry with us. We'll go back to that moment and we wish that we could press the reset button and just start it all over again. We always have options, and sometimes we wish we'd taken different options. And my life is no different. At the height of my career, I found myself being the captain of a struggling team out in Venda, a team called Rabali Blackpool. Firstly, as an Indian footballer, I was the captain of the team. Indian footballers in the NSL at the time were diminishing. We're not there anymore. And I had an experience where I found that I buckled under the pressure of being the captain, trying to save my team from relegation. But at the time, I did something that nobody else around me expected to do. Perhaps it was the pressure. Perhaps it was me feeling that I was shamed at the time. I was substituted after 20 minutes, walked off the field, and 10-15 minutes later, attacked my coach. It was live on SABC TV at the time in 1995. I felt that I had brought great embarrassment to my football family, to my friends, to my colleagues in education. So during the COVID pandemic, I started writing a letter of apology to explain my actions and saying, listen, I know that I brought embarrassment and shame to you, but these were the things that contributed to it. In fact, I was mitigating my bad behavior. And then I gave context to what happened, perhaps pre-context, post-context, and I found the book. I found that it sort of morphed into something greater. And a year later, I had 13, 14 chapters of my life trying to explain that I wasn't the person that everybody made me out to be. It was a bad moment. I mean, I tried very hard in the book to explain that everybody in life, everybody has a tipping point. We we can get pushed to a point where we say we can't take it anymore. But it's not an excuse, because we always have options. I make reference to Eric Cantona, who attacked a supporter at the end of a game at Crystal Palace, by the way. And Eric came back, and Eric Cantona says, and I don't want to draw parallels because we live in completely different worlds, and he said, if I had to do it again, and I paraphrase, I don't know if I won't do it again. Pushed to that point, I'm quite capable of doing it again. So I found some solace there.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting read. Now, Gora, you've got so many achievements, so many titles to your name. What's next in store for Gora Ebrahim?
Well, the first part of it, the one that I'm quite clear is going to happen, is that we're moving to the Western Cape in a couple of weeks' time. Well, not in a couple, next week. So that's the next journey. We don't exactly know what to expect, but it is a path that I've always wanted to take. Believe it or not, I would have loved to come to Durban. I love Durban. Everything about Durban. The fact that we're in the middle of, in the middle of autumn right now, and I'm able to walk around like that, that's a huge pull factor. I would like to do some things there. I'd like to continue writing. I'd like to speak at schools. I would like to partner with someone like Robin Soulal, and we are speaking about it, where I will piggyback on his tour, speaking to people. I'd really like that. I love speaking. You may have noticed right now that you'll have to stop me, because once I get going, us teachers, we love doing this. But I also want to speak to children at schools. I've just completed a course right now where we identify the skills and the talents of children. And what I'd like to do is to help children find their talents and perhaps give a little picture of what the children can do to the parents, and say, these are the talents of your children. Don't push them in a direction that they hate, which is so often the case. So I'm busy with that right now. I'd like to take it to Cape Town and speak to the parents there, and hear where it's going to take me, and maybe make a difference in those kids' lives, and maybe help their parents find their children. Football, yes, but academics, yes, that too.
Well, wishing you all the best in your new journey. But before I say goodbye, I play a game with all my guests, Rapid Fire 5, just to get to know you better. Are you ready? Your greatest football hero?
Undoubtedly, the mercurial, magical Diego Armando Maradona.
Interesting. What do you wish you would have learned sooner?
Football decisions. I wish I could have winded back the clock and just did things a little different.
Which would you say is your favorite, biryani or banija?
I have to do the bunny. Has to be a mutton bunny. No.
The one person you would love to have at your dinner table?
Maybe Brené Brown. She's a motivational speaker, has written, she speaks about vulnerability. She speaks about putting yourself out there, the ability to be brave. When I do my talks, I'd love to maybe model my talks around what she says.
Interesting. And then the last one, Gora, I start my day with?
Boring is the way I start my day. A glass of warm water with some turmeric in and some lemon in there, and once I've had that, I feel I'm ready for the day. How boring is that?
Not boring indeed. It's actually quite different. Most people start their day with coffee. Well, nevertheless, Gora, it was such an amazing time speaking to you, heading down memory lane in your football journey. Thank you for your time and wishing you all the best in your journey ahead.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you for having me here. Durban's a lekker place to be.